Here at Blue Apron, we know exactly how hectic school nights can be. That's why we created Assemble and Bake. Delicious one-pan meals that make family dinner simple. Just assemble the pre-chopped ingredients and put the pan in the oven to bake. Then you're free to help out with that last-minute diorama. Shop Assemble and Bake at BlueApron.com. Get 50% off your first 2 orders with code APRON50. Terms and conditions apply. Visit BlueApron.com/terms for more.
Oh, let's start with that first question, shall we? Wayne Rooney wants to be Manchester United captain. You are having a laugh.
I don't know. He'll be a perfectly serviceable captain. Let's all just get over it and move on. It's happening. We might as well accept it. It's very unfortunate. Nobody wants it except for the handful of Wayne Rooney super fans who are really massively into people running around. He's done very little in his time at United to earn the captaincy, but Nemanja Vidic earned the captaincy by threatening to leave the club, essentially. So, you know, there is precedence in recent history. It just all seems a little bit unfortunate that this is the sort of club we've become.
Well, he got the captaincy after threatening to leave, or at least looking around. So I'm not quite sure that's the same thing. But no, I take your point. Vidic was also looking at his options. I'm not sure he quite went as far as trying to move to City and Chelsea. And given this is an ambassadorial position, it's not just about who shouts most, which was Wayne Rooney's pitch today. He shouts a lot. He's very vocal on the pitch, apparently. It's also an ambassador of Manchester United, and I don't ever remember Vidic shagging grannies, prostitutes, smoking, drinking, or generally acting Larry. But there you go. There's I've said this before, so I suppose none of that's new. Shall we move on to more exciting things? Manchester United won a game of football.
It was so good. It was so good. Well, it was so good.
Wow.
For
about 45 minutes of good.
Yeah, 10 minutes at the end was absolutely brilliant. I mean, it was super cool to actually get to go to the game, something I don't get to do very often at all. We sat quietly as Manchester United goals went in. I'm a pretty self-controlled guy, so it's not particularly challenging for me, but the one set of circumstances when it is actually difficult for me to remember that I'm not supposed to jump up and down and punch the air when United score a goal is when there's like a lovely tiki-taka into play move where we play football that looks like the kind of football we all want to see, which is then finished by Danny Welbeck. A difficult moment in my life, that, Ed.
The backstory there, Paul and I sat in the home fan section, which I've done, have to say, many times. Particularly difficult getting away tickets at the moment, it seems so. Good performance from United, though, I thought, for about 45 minutes in the second half. And the one thing that was really notable about the game was that United played quite narrow, and there really wasn't the emphasis on getting it wide and hoofing it long into space. I mean, Moyes is a proponent of players playing with space, and so likes to stretch the game, which is part of the reason why United play so many long balls at the moment. In fact, United played a lot of long balls. I looked up the figures, about 15%, significantly more than West Brom. But that said, Januzaj tucked in occasionally, spent quite a lot of his time wide, and Mata definitely tucked in, and it made for less space between the key players in forward positions. United actually played some nice football in the second half, at least. Managed to get some triangles going, which doesn't happen very often.
What was kind of interesting is that in spite of the lack of emphasis on wing play, some of the goals came from wing play, which sort of just shows what can happen if you mix it up a bit. You know, the fact that when you're playing a bit narrower, I mean, Fellaini was put in a lovely cross, and I think, was it Raphael's cross for Rooney's goal, and it was some overlapping wing play from Raphael that led to the free kick which Van Persie passed into Phil Jones for his goal. If you think about that, that's all people overlapping into space created by the wingers coming inside. So let's try and start with a negative and end on a positive, really, with this one, because I was a bit surprised when we got home and it was put on Twitter, United were, relatively average today against a really abject West Brom side. I was just genuinely surprised that wasn't the kind of universal take on it, because in the first half United were, very substandard, finding it very difficult to create anything, got that set piece and got the goal. But West Brom were absolutely abject, so, it didn't seem to be much to write home about, and they had a lot of injuries. You pointed out to me that Zoltan Gera had gone to right back, and 30 seconds later Rooney scored when he was completely ignored by Zoltan Gera. And then West Brom's heart just completely left the game for that, and United changed things up when Kagawa came on. But Adnan Januzaj, I thought, had a very poor game, sadly.
Well, he didn't have a great game, but he looks a bit undercooked to me. Moyes is talking about, protecting him, but he's not played a lot of football recently and really hasn't played that many games this season if you look at how many starts he's had. So I just thought he's looking a bit rusty. Plus, he a rather strange relationship with Patrice Evra, who kept trying to hit him with long balls all the time, which is, part of the reason why United had 15% long balls or something along those lines. But anyway, to get back to the bigger picture, I thought it was a good last half hour or something like that from United, and what went before it was all right, but nothing spectacular. I thought United defended well, which is a good base to build from, and did okay through midfield. Fellaini in the end had a very good game. First 45, not so great, looked a bit off the pace. Second 45 came into it a bit more. Some interesting tactical issues from United. I mean, not everyone on the same page, so central defenders split, which is, and Michael Carrick dropping into the back four to effectively make about three a lot of the time, which is fine, except Fellaini has this habit of getting ahead of the ball, which is what he did at Everton. So we really did have the donut for Manchester United a lot of the time, so it had to go wide and long on occasion because of that. So a little bit of work to do there, I'd say. You need to get those players a bit closer together, otherwise United are not going to play any of the decent football we'd like them to play. But then again, David Moyes is in charge, so maybe that will never happen. But look, 3-0 win for United. It doesn't happen that often, does it? And in the end, lots and lots of positives to take from that game.
And interestingly, what happened for the third goal was, I guess we should talk about the big sort of newsy story out of that game, which was Robin van Persie in pretty abject form. Not great body language. I think he's physically not right. I think a lot's being made of the moodiness, and I'm sure there is something to that. But he was very flat when he came back from injury last season for a couple of months, wasn't he? And I wonder how much of it's physical. He probably should have been sent off. You could almost feel the referee bottle it in real time, that second yellow card. It's either not a foul or it's a yellow card as far as I'm concerned. Lots of people saying, shouldn't be a yellow card, he got a piece of the ball. It's like, well, that's only a justification if it's not a foul at all.
Yeah, which of course it is a foul, and people still, this bizarre argument about getting the ball is total nonsense. He went straight through the player. So yes, I agree with you, very, very lucky. They could easily have been sent off in different circumstances, and I would suggest in European football almost certainly would have been. Premier League, slightly laxer standards on that one, and I think you're right. I think the referee did bottle it, but yeah, completely right in your other point there. Very poor body language from Van Persie. I have to say, I do find the reaction from fans a bit weird about this one, because, look, he is having a strop at the moment, but we know exactly why he's having a strop. He's not happy with United's tactics. He's not happy with the results. He's not happy that he doesn't get to dictate his training regime anymore. He doesn't get on with the manager, despite what David Moyes said about sitting with him on the plane. Although, mind you, he didn't actually say he sat with him, so they travelled back on the same plane. So, Robin van Persie is not happy. David Moyes hasn't buttered him up in the same way that he has done for Wayne Rooney. And I'm afraid that's impacting on Van Persie's game at the moment. He's not a happy bunny, and he clearly needs to feel happy in order to play well. Ferguson was brilliant at this. When a player needed an arm around the shoulder, he did that. When he needed a bollocking, he did that too. And he managed to extract the best out of players in almost all circumstances. And when he didn't, he got rid. And we'll see exactly what United's take is on this situation in the summer, because I'm not sure it's going to change an awful lot between now and then.
And lots of people pointing out that United looked much better when Van Persie went off, but not to be this guy. No, this isn't even a Welbs reference. But actually, I really did think Kagawa changed a lot for United when he came on, because what happened at that point was, you mentioned earlier the players being really stretched, but once Kagawa came in, you had Mata on one side and Kagawa on the other side, both really quick to dart inside, and that third goal, Kagawa was in the centre circle at the beginning of that move, and Mata comes right inside and interchanges with Fellaini, and everyone's really close together. But yeah, Welbeck's movement makes a huge difference. But I think Van Persie would have been in a similar position for that goal, probably. Although there was the moment when he and Rooney quite literally ran into each other's zone when they bumped into each other in the box. So.
Yes, Wayne Rooney's zone being rather large.
So harsh. So very, very harsh.
It's so harsh. I know. Look, I think it's a fair comment about Welbeck playing a part in United playing some better football in the last half hour, because, his movement is very good and Van Persie's was very poor. Welbeck's touch isn't always perfect, but he is very good at that kind of one-touch play, right? So he moves into space and brings other players into the game, and his finishing is not always great either, but he finished the third goal in expert fashion. So he adds a lot, Welbeck, in terms of his all-round game, and if United are going to play a possession game where we play through the middle, then there's a good argument to say that Welbeck is going to compete with Van Persie for a starting spot. He's a couple of levels below in terms of the class of his finishing, and in the end, that's kind of what a striker is judged on, isn't it? So that's an important thing. The other thing to say is that is unusual from United. That last 30 minutes is not the pattern this season. So I think we would be a little remiss to pretend that that's suddenly how United are going to play. Remember, they played a little bit more narrow against Crystal Palace a few weeks before that, and straight afterwards with Olympiacos, and more long balls and more hopeful, aimless crosses.
Yeah, a couple of things. One, I just want to clarify, I actually wasn't saying that Welbeck's introduction was the thing that made the primary difference. I was saying that it was actually Kagawa coming on that enabled that to happen.
Agree. No, you said that. That's fine, yeah. And I think you're right on that point too. Kagawa is, he always has this, this ability to change the pace of the game in a way that there's no real other United player who can do that. And I guess that's why one of the reasons why it's so disappointing he doesn't seem to have had the opportunities under Moyes to prove he can do something. But, the fact is he doesn't do two things that Moyes desperately wants his players to do: attack space and hug the touchline. Doesn't do either of those things. And I'm afraid that with Rooney at, number 10, Kagawa's in real trouble, because he's just not going to play in the wide areas in the way that Moyes wants.
No, and it's a real shame. And the other slight point, I guess, is that maybe the Olympiacos game, the fact that Mata's not available in Europe, and maybe that makes a bit of a difference. And actually the fact that we've played in 2 league games in a row against lesser opposition in a slightly more expansive, interesting, well, expansive is the wrong word, but a kind of creative and fluid style with shorter passing maybe offers a little tiny bit of hope. It's this Moyes thing, right? It's the desperately wanting to be wrong about the fact that third goal was an exception rather than what we're building towards. And the one thing that you can say about this season is that the times when we've been good, that's how we've played. And you'd have to be, I was going to say thick, but that seems kind of harsh, but you have to be kind of pretty thick-skinned, let's say, not to get the idea that, wait a minute, this is Manchester United, we don't have to just play to control the space and stretch the play and use it. We can actually use our technical advantage over our opponents, and then we play nice football. And the key to all of this isn't an aesthetic argument, this is a results argument. We are better when our players are closer together. We are more effective. It's very frustrating.
Yes, although, I'm afraid that's a logical argument too far for David Moyes. And I've had this debate with loads of people who say, oh, well, he'll change. Why? Have you not seen 8 months of United's performances and 10 years of Everton before that? Right? This is how his teams play, right? So he wants to change out a significant proportion of his team and his squad in order to get players that will play more like the way he wants. Now, the outlier in all of this is Juan Mata, who doesn't feel like very much like a Moyes signing. And of course, Mata said this week on his blog that he sees himself as a number 10, doesn't see himself as a winger, even though he's been playing from the right. Funny, didn't get a lot of criticism for that. When Shinji Kagawa said something very similar, a lot of United fans were up in arms about that one. But he's absolutely right. He's not a winger. He played very much inside. And the challenge for Moyes there is if he does that and unbalances the United shape, especially in defensive situations, then you've got a real problem. Now, against West Brom, that was all right, because actually Fellaini covered the right, and he spent a lot of time on the right-hand side of the pitch, Fellaini. Against Liverpool on Sunday, I'm not sure that Moyes will accept that, and I think what he'll do is he'll bring in a more traditional wide player than, say, Januzaj. Probably Antonio Valencia, who will hug the touchline. Mata will play left, and he'll probably use Fellaini to cover defensive positions on the left as well. You know, that kind of structure wins out over flair and fluidity all the time with David Moyes, and I think we'd be a bit foolish, really, to expect a sudden change.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing about that West Brom game feeling a bit like a sort of a new dawn, first of all, there's already been a lot of them, as previously discussed on the podcast. It's West Brom. My goodness, they were bad, right? I mean, I'll be shocked if they don't go down, and so will every West Bromwich Albion fan within a kind of 300-seat radius of us, by the seams of it.
Yeah, look, I mean, even just looking at the goals, three pretty awful errors all round, actually. So even with the third United goal. So first goal, apart from the crude foul on Raphael, nobody marking Phil Jones at the set piece. It's pretty criminal, even from a relegation threatened side, to not pick up at the set piece. Second goal, as I was shouting at you, not 30 seconds before the goal, that Giroud had gone to right back and Rooney went the blind side of him and he wasn't tracked. Straightforward header. And the third goal, 18 passes before United scored that goal. No pressure on any United player at any point in the whole move. And that's why they're going to go down. It's harsh on Pepe Mel, I think, 7 games in, but they don't look like they've got the quality or the character to stay up at the moment. They don't. I'd say they were beaten as a set of players already, and there's pretty much nothing Mel can do about it.
They are also, it's worth noting, charging £25 for an evening with Pepe Mel. Only an evening? To quote The Simpsons. You pointed out that seemed a very ambitious fee.
Yes. Well, Pepe Mel's replacement. Anyway, so that's West Brom. And in the meantime, in midweek, off the pitch, Manchester United shares have shot up. We'd commented on the show a few times already how United's share prices had been at one point about 22.5% off from the date Ferguson had retired. It'd been slowly creeping down over these months, worries about revenue if United are out of the Champions League, long-term effect of David Moyes, the fact that significant investment is probably likely in the transfer market, wiping out United's cash pile, and all of this has worried investors, and along come Barron Capital Management, run by Ron Barron, and they've bought up a significant block of the available shares. So there aren't that many shares available. Only about 10% of United is traded, and they now own about 2.5% of the club in total. Which is interesting, and it's interesting that it's Barron, really, because Barron has this reputation as being a very long-term investors. They are not speculators by any means, traditionally anyway, and they tend to invest in areas that you'd say were safe bets, so healthcare and real estate and that kind of thing. So interesting all round. Wouldn't necessarily say football's a safe bet, but there you go, United have a new significant investor.
Yeah, 2.5% of the club, that's 1.25% of voting rights, right?
Yes, not exactly going to make a takeover, and I should say this is not a precursor to a takeover bid. This is a fund management company. They are long-term investors. They're simply looking to extract a profit because they believe that United's share price was too low over the long term. United's share price was about $14.50 last week. It's about $16.50 now, so they probably turned around a quick profit, but it looks like they're in it for a longer term, and we'll see where United's share price goes from here. Of course, the bump in the price is because someone has been buying lots of shares, and that might not happen next week.
No, absolutely. Interesting. It's a pretty small bet from them, right?
No, it's about $80 million or so, and their total fund's worth about $20 billion, so it's pretty risk-free.
Basically like you or me buying 80 pence worth of shares, really, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I have a couple of billion spare, so, now and again I chuck a few $100 million at funky startup like United.
Weren't they listed as a
high growth company? Yes. Which was interesting, yeah. Also, in other financial news, Toshiba this week and United made a big splash with the new medical centre, so a bunch of CT scanners and various other medical equipment, including this classic line from David Moyes. Manchester United has a lot of partnerships, and this one's very important for attracting new players. Hummer. Yes.
Well,
Can you smell the BS coming off that one?
No, they pop round. I don't know if you want to attract players because of really good medical facilities, do you? Like Owen Hargreaves turns up and goes, "Oh, this is brilliant. This is a ploy to get Ilkay Gundogan, isn't it? That's what this is all about."
That's it. Well, we're going to overtrain you lads, and no doubt you'll be getting hamstring knack or muscle knack of some kind. And but don't worry, we've got some great scanners to show how bad the knack is. I mean, it's just another partnership basically, and United's investment in medical facilities has been long on the cards, and try and move some of it out of the Bridgewater Hospital into their private hands, which is all fair and good, and no one complain about that. But
no, not at all.
I think Moyes went a bit too far in proclaiming that some new pieces of medical equipment will somehow make it easier to attract players. Yes. No Champions League football, lads, but look at the size of this donut-shaped machine. Awesome.
The talking of Moyes going too far, the letter to season ticket holders, I got some genuinely upset stick on Twitter for saying that I found the whole thing really cynical, and I didn't take Moyes at face value at all. Cynical both on the part of the club's PR machine, pulling on the heartstrings of season ticket holders, asking them to renew, but also the point at which even the kind of United fanzine polls had started to show a majority of people in favour of Moyes leaving. He thanked fans for their unwavering faith, which I think I would have had much less of a problem with that letter if it had said unwavering support, but it's actually kind of offensive to suggest that United fans have unwavering faith in the mystical abilities of David Moyes, I thought.
Well, yes, faith is blind, apparently, if you're David Moyes. Yes, I mean, it's a quarterly update to season ticket holders, so it wasn't anything out of the usual, although I have to say I couldn't really respect the message in there because I thought it was kind of grovelling and pathetic and grow a pair, man. And, what else could he say? It's been brilliant this season. We'll try and beat them. We were brilliant, really. It's all the rest's fault. I suppose he could have done that, but he's lost all credibility trying to do that. So I thought it was slightly strange. But then again, he was damned if he did that and damned if he came out with something else. I have to say, given the results at United, it was very hard for him to write anything that sounded genuine. And he came across as disingenuous instead. But there you go. That's David Moyes.
I don't hate David Moyes at all. I sort of like him. I really wish it was working better. And every time I see a little glimpse of the good football, I think, oh yeah, maybe he will spot that. He's a smart man. He's not an idiot by any means. But yeah, and I know you're pretty convinced he's not going to change. And the evidence definitely backs you up, because every time we do take a step forward, we take 2 steps back, which leads me nicely on to the Liverpool game at the weekend. Having taken a step forward against West Brom, 3 giant leaps forward, 3 points, 3 goals. The Scousers come to town in rare form. Well, rare for the last 25 years or whatever. Very unfortunate to see Liverpool do well as we fall apart at the seams. What do you think our chances are? How do you think Moyes will approach this one? Are you optimistic, etc.?
Well, a few questions in there. So, I mean, you'd make Liverpool favourites, wouldn't you, given the comparative form to United's and position in the league table and all of that kind of stuff, which is unusual, really. Can't be many occasions over the last 25 years where Liverpool have been favourites for a win at Old Trafford as well. How will Moyes approach it? Well, I think he'll be somewhat more conservative than United were against West Brom. I'd be shocked if Antonio Valencia or Ashley Young, or maybe both, didn't start. It's hard to cram Mata and Rooney into the same side and play both Ashley Young and Antonio Valencia. But if it can be done, Moyes could do it. There are a few questions over the side still. I mean, certainly Robin van Persie's performance against West Brom has put a big question mark there. You'd expect him to start. It's a very big game. He's a very big player. You'd expect him to start. But it wouldn't hugely shock people, I suppose, if he started on the bench and maybe Wayne Rooney went up front and Mata came inside, and that would allow Moyes to play both Young and Valencia in the same side, and he'd do that because they do give you good structure. Defensively, they both defend the space very well, or they defend the space, which is what Moyes wants, and Liverpool do use width quite well. So, it kind of tells me that it could be a slightly different approach from United than the one against West Brom.
Yeah, but this is the nuclear option, isn't it? Dropping Van Persie, playing Rooney in front of Mata and Young and Valencia on either flank. What do you think the realistic chances are of him dropping Robin Van Persie? That does not seem a very Moyes-esque move.
No, I don't think it'll happen. If I'm betting right now, I think the side pretty much picks itself. So I think Rooney will play behind Robin Van Persie, and Mata will play left and Valencia right, and Carrick and Fellaini will play in the centre, and really the only other question then is who plays in the two central defensive spots. Do Smalling and Jones get that nod again, or is Moyes true to his word? And when he said that he had rested Vidic and Ferdinand because they'd be needed in future games, that one of them will play, probably Vidic, which could happen, of course. Smalling drops out and Vidic comes in.
Jones and Smalling were excellent against West Brom, as was Raphael. You would think, if you put yourself in the way David Moyes has kind of run the side, you'd think he goes for the kind of route one option, doesn't he? He goes for the most obvious choice, and that is that big game, play Vidic, That's how these things work. I think actually he probably should just play Jones and Smalling, not least of which because they're really mobile, and they'll be up against very mobile attackers. And also, there isn't anything other than pride riding on this game. So actually exposing Jones and Smalling to the challenge of Sturridge and Suarez and seeing how they match up, maybe not the worst idea of Moyes. But I doubt he'll do that because there's immense pressure. He's not just playing for pride, is he? I suppose he's playing for his job.
Well, he is, although I'm not necessarily sure that he's got that reactive yet. I think he feels fairly secure in his job. If there's a choice between being bold and being conservative when it comes to David Moyes, I think I always pick the conservative one because it seems to be where he lays. It's not a barometer of my skill at picking the team, but at the moment I'm picking 9, 10 or 11 on occasion players that Moyes is likely to put out. I could never do that with Ferguson. So I think he's just a little more predictable, and there's a few choices to be made here around Januzaj versus Valencia, around Smalling versus Vidic, the issue around Van Persie versus playing Mata inside or Welbeck up top, and I think you can come down on the conservative side of all of those, and you're probably more likely to be right than wrong.
Absolutely. Assuming you're sort of putting yourself in the Moyes mindset, you'd go with Jones alongside Vidic rather than Smalling alongside Vidic.
Yes, I would expect that would be what Moyes would do. I have to say, if I was making a choice between Jones and Smalling, I'd pick Jones too right now. Although Smalling had a very good game. A very good game against West Brom, and as did Jones. They were both very, very good. But Jones is just a little bit more mobile, and there's plenty of pace in the Liverpool attack, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. Smalling might be our best central defender this season, actually. He hasn't played there all that often, but early on in the season he had a couple of slightly dodgy games, but he's been pretty consistently good when he's played in that central defensive role. Everybody that's listening to this presumably knows the kind of challenge that Liverpool will pose United this season. They are a very different proposition than they have been in recent times. They're in hugely confident form and we're the underdogs. And, the truth of the matter is we've not really performed well against Liverpool for a long time, have we? It's kind of a cliche that we don't raise our game against Liverpool in the way that they do. It's their cup final. Sadly, this season it's our cup final.
Oh dear, come on. I'm not having that. Not having that. Look, Liverpool are playing well. Very good win at Southampton last week. I mean, underperformance from Southampton certainly, but they've found a pattern. They're playing possession football. They play three through the middle. Coutinho's had an excellent season. He's a kind of creative spark. They use width from the fullbacks very well, and then in Sturridge and Suarez, they've got bags of pace and goals up front. So they're definitely dangerous. It's part of the reason why they have 11 points more than United this season, and they're very good on the break as well, and that'll be important at Old Trafford, I guess. I actually think, given that they'll play three very narrow through central midfield and then continue just sitting ahead of them, that they'll probably hog possession against United because, we're wont to give it away quite frequently, aren't we? In Gerrard sitting deep, they've revived one of the top players, top player, Ferguson wouldn't agree, from the Premier League over the last 15 years or so, and he's become a kind of defensive midfield player. Henderson alongside him had an excellent season. Joe Allen might play, might not. Depends whether they want to try and get Sterling into the side. And then with Agra and Skirtle both fit, which hasn't always happened this season, they've got a pretty solid central defensive base.
It's not good news in general, really, is it? This is going to be a really tough game. And then after that one, it's the second leg of the European Cup, last 16. First knockout round, I think is what it's officially called, isn't it?
Round of 16, I think UEFA call it. But yeah,
there you go. The round of 16, and a huge challenge for United to overcome that 2-0 deficit, not because Olympiacos are a good side, but because, of course, they can't afford to concede. I would desperately hope that this will see a rather different approach from Moyes, and you wonder whether he'll go whole hog, play every attacking player he's got. It's going to be really interesting. I kind of haven't really thought ahead of the Liverpool game and whether even he'll make some selection compromises in the Liverpool game with a view to overturning Olympiacos, because it's a big task, but it's not impossible, is it? You can imagine United on their day beating Olympiacos 2-0 or 4-1, couldn't you?
Yeah, I'm not sure I can imagine United beating them 4-1, but maybe, yes. Look, United can win this game and could go through. He's going to take a really big effort, and of course having to win 3-0 to go through means that United will be a bit exposed, and Olympiacos have some players that could cause United damage. Now, of course, away from the home ground their record isn't nearly as good. Won't get the same kind of atmosphere, not in their favour at least. See what kind of atmosphere there is at Old Trafford, I suppose. United could spring one of those great European nights to go alongside beating Barcelona 3-0 in 1984 and all of that. Big comeback. So I remember another game when United had lost away from home in the first leg against Atletico in the year after United won the Cup Winners' Cup. Now, this is ageing me now. Everyone thought we'd go out and beat them, and there's all the talk about that Barcelona game and the comeback that was on, and they very quickly scored a goal to run everyone a bit flat. So that could happen as well. Olympiacos, if they're brave, they'll push United as well, because there's plenty of teams that have caused United problems at Old Trafford this season.
Absolutely. I don't know. The West Brom game has left me with a dizzying optimism. But a lot of what was good about the second half of West Brom was Juan Mata, right? The combination of Mata and Fellaini was really, really effective in that second half. Incidentally, and some of it warranted, but it felt like it went a little over the top because he also looked really clumsy a few times to me.
And a dirty player as well. I mean, he got like a studs up challenge, which was a pretty bad one, yeah. Yes, I think it's relative, right? So his performances have been so dire that when it's not dire, people go a little over the top, overcompensating. So I actually thought he was pretty, very good in the second half. I thought he had a very good second half, but I mentioned a couple of tactical issues, and he's just not very mobile and pretty clumsy, and he's a dirty fucker. But there you go. That's kind of what you get with Fellaini, and I think he'll play a lot of games between now and the end of the season. Now he's fit, he kind of has to, doesn't he? But you're right, Mata is a loss, and he's a loss not only because he's a fine player, still bedding into United, I think, but also because it means that increases the chance of Valencia or Young playing.
Yes, absolutely. And one of them definitely will play, I'm sure. A bit of transfer nonsense before we move on to a couple of Twitter questions and then do predictions and then all go home to bed. William Carvalho, talks apparently opened. Who knows what that really means, but that's what is currently being said. So there you go.
Well, we'll see. I mean, he's more of a defensive-minded player, very neat on the ball and pretty physical. Hey, don't watch a load of Portuguese football. Talked to a few people about him. Lots of people like him a lot. He's not paid very much, so I think really the competition is over the fee and who wants to pay the most of it. Don't know whether this is super real or not, but United watched him loads and loads of times, so he's definitely in the mixer. But, I'd say United have the propensity to screw up a transfer. Wouldn't you?
Yes, talking of which, a double swoop planned for Shaw and Lallana.
Yeah, this is nonsense.
No Moisey. Buy one, get one free still does not work. You can't just get a free left-back with the purchase of every midfielder.
Well, on this occasion, the left-back being much more expensive, yeah. I would be shocked I tell thee, if Shaw does not go to Chelsea. it would be a massive surprise. I think that one's already locked on. And Lallana's growing all the time. With each season, he gets better. He was such a talented teenager, technically always been really, really good. But he's blossomed into a player that can play multiple positions and seems to have taken to the international game very quickly as well. So I think he'd be a good addition to United's squad if he replaced Ashley Young. Definitely be an upgrade there. I don't think he's a world-class player by any means. So for me, he's still a squad player, but we'll see. I'm not sure that Southampton will be wanting to sell a lot of their players. They don't need to. And so Shaw is the obvious one that will go in the summer, and I think he'll go to Chelsea.
FC Zurich teenager Dimitri Oberlin Mfomo has chosen Manchester United as his preferred destination, apparently. So who knows what that means.
I don't watch a lot of Swiss reserve football. Don't know about you, Paul.
No. And the other story, which I thought was kind of interesting, it's kind of like a little throwaway line in a Manchester Evening News piece about United's transfers in the summer, suggesting that basically United have set their own transfer deadline day of the kick-off for the World Cup, and they want to get all their business done by the beginning of, the middle of June, effectively. I mean, that's really, really interesting, isn't it?
Yep.
Because after the shambles of last season, it would be very reassuring to all of those observing the club, and perhaps even the stock market investors and stuff, to see United do their business in an efficient, sensible manner.
Yes, it would. That's one way of putting it. The other one is, of course, that June the 12th is the day that United will pay a massive premium to get a player.
Right, if they do well in the World Cup, you mean? Or
June the 12th being the day the World Cup kicks off. After that, it's all a lottery, isn't it? Yeah. Look, I'm being a little facetious, but the point that United need to do a lot of the business early, if it's going to be a very busy summer, and everyone seems to think it will be, is a good one. This needs to kind of happen earlier. Of course, they don't suddenly pick up the phone on the day the season ends and start dialing. United have done a lot of the groundwork already, and I'd hope they've done it in a more subtle fashion than has happened in the past. And of course, everyone's looking at the Tony Cruz situation and thinking that United might be being played here. I wonder.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at that Tony Cruz situation and not wondering whether or not United are being played. It couldn't be any clearer if it was written in big letters when he held the press conference before the Champions League game against Arsenal and basically said, yeah, it's definitely a possibility I could move. I could go anywhere I want. Thing is, I'm a player really in demand. So basically, what I'm saying is, if you're reading between the lines, I would very much like to stay at Bayern Munich. If you could please find it in your hearts to pay me a fortune.
Well, yes. Interesting on this. I've seen a lot of commentary saying somehow he's annoyed with Pep because he's not a first team player or not a regular or something like that. Nonsense, right? The only player that's played more games in the Bayern Munich side this season is Manuel Neuer. He's a regular.
Yeah.
And he's very important, and he's a player who can play in multiple positions. So he's played as a holding player, he's played in central midfield, he's played at number 10 and can play wide. I think he'd play right in the middle of central midfield for United and be very, very good there as well. He's clearly a very high-class player. I'll go to the World Cup with Germany and quite possibly start in the first team there, and he's holding a lot of cards because he's only got a year and a little bit on his contract. He's holding out to get parity with some of the better paid players at Bayern, and he almost certainly deserves it. He would most certainly be paid that kind of level of wage elsewhere, and so Bayern will have to eat this one. They're either going to pay him or take a fee in the summer, which would still be a significant fee. He's not going for free, remember. It will still be north of 25 million as a transfer fee, and then reinvest that in a new player, and probably, if they're the same quality, pay them massive wages too. So you can kind of see the logic here. He's a young player, he's fit, he's important. Bayern will pay him in the end, and he'll stay there. Is my bet if I was a betting man.
Absolutely, that all sounds very reasonable to me. All right, a few Twitter questions talking of sounding very reasonable. At @bifurcated_MUFC says, if you could only have one Danny Welbeck in your team, which would you choose and why? I would choose Danny Welbeck because he is brilliant. 9 goals in 18 appearances in the league this season, and having an average season apparently, compared to Alvaro Negredo, 9 goals in 20-something appearances this season. A shout out to @RFFH for that useful stat to illustrate how Danny Welbeck is brilliant, and people that don't think Danny Welbeck is brilliant need to learn more about how Danny Welbeck is brilliant.
Yeah, Danny Welbeck PR there from Paul.
At AB5Y says, is it worth trying to find a place for Nani in this side? Yeah, definitely. Don't you think? good nanny would be brilliant.
He's got a place on the physio's table at the moment because he's not fit. And then he'll be sold in the summer. So I've got a lot of time for Nani. He's got bags and bags and bags and bags of talent. It's a shame that throughout his career he's never been able to apply it in a consistent manner, and he's clearly not found much favour with Moyes and fell out of favour with Ferguson. So we'll see. United secured the value of their asset by giving him a new contract last summer. I still expect him to leave in the summer.
Yeah, absolutely. At Rahul's J92 asks if we can find the actual amount that Man United can spend in the summer. If you listen to, I think it's 3 or 4 podcasts ago, Ed broke down the amount of cash in the bank. So it worked out about 150 million. So if we spend over that, we're going into sort of overdraft situations.
Well, United do have some covenants within the bond that allow payments to be deferred for a while. So in theory, United go into the red, and there's a drawdown facility as well, basically an overdraft. So in theory, United could spend the kind of money that the Red Tops keep saying that United are going to spend, right, 200 million or so. In theory, I would say it's not going to happen, even if there were significant sales this summer, which of course will bolster any transfer fees. I'd be really surprised if United spend anywhere north of 100 million. Really surprised, because the economics don't work out very well on that one. Have to amortise all these fees, and financial fair play comes into it. And if United do spend that kind of money, don't expect much more investment for the next couple of years.
I guess this is also, we are talking in net terms as well, so like any profits from the sale of Nani and all that kind of stuff go into the mixer here, right? We're not talking 100 million gross, are we?
No, it's going to be net. The challenge, of course, is that United have already indicated to the market that spending would be in line with historical spending, so they're going to have to indicate to the market something else at some point.
Well, they already have, haven't they? Because this season has already been way out of line with what that figure was assumed to be.
Well, quite, 75 million already spent, and, massive chunk of change to come. The real question, of course, is whether Moyes and Woodward can spend it in the right way, and are they going to get any value for money? Because I have to say, £27.5 million, no matter how well he played against West Brom, does not look like good value for Marouane Fellaini.
At Tony_Guerilla, talking of people that played well against West Brom, says, would you agree that we started to see some faith in Raphael from Moyes against West Bromwich? Yeah, and he singled him out for praise afterwards. And I thought that was really nice to see. In between saying nice things about Wayne Rooney, he found time to really big up the performances of all the defenders. I don't think he mentioned Everett, but the rest of them he did, including Raphael, and that was really nice to see. Raphael, again, improved his form once Fabio left. So, I don't know, read into that what you will.
Yeah, very good performance from Raphael. I think he's maturing all the time. A couple of moments during the game you thought that the headless chicken was about to return. For the most part, he's making the right decisions, and to go along with his kind of boundless enthusiasm and quality in the attacking third. So I just don't get the constant speculation around a new right-back coming in. It doesn't make a lot of sense to spend millions on a new right-back when we have a very high-quality one there. He's maturing all the time. I think he'll get better again next season.
I mean, we could definitely do with a second right-back.
Yes, but the kind of right-backs they're talking about are very expensive right-backs. So I think we could do with a young right-back to come in and challenge Raphael, and because having Smalling and Jones playing there is not good, adds to the hoof ball that United play sometimes.
At Benny Hudson says, if David Moyes is so good at scouting, why don't we just make him a scout and get a proper manager in?
Fair point.
Really made me laugh, that dude.
Though, of course, he doesn't do all the scouting. He has a whole team to do the scouting that they stick into their magic iPads, beam onto the wall of Carrington somewhere.
But, at the drop of a hat, if he's got an opportunity to go scouting, he'll go scouting. Moisey absolutely loves a scout. At Alexander Gallo, talking of people that want Moyes out, says, should we sell Robin and replace him with someone pacier if he continues to let his frustrations affect his form? And Nick at Man United Youth says, by the way, massive congratulations, Nick, on the birth of what Brett from Bifurcated called Man United Youth. So yeah, this week's rant cast goes out to the new little one.
Oh, can he play midfield?
Yeah, him and your little ranter, that is midfield sorted in 10 years, 15, 20 years time. Anyway, Nick says, with the form of Welbeck and the process of young James Wilson, is there really any need or justification to spend big on a potential replacement for Robin Van Persie, especially given our other needs?
Yeah, well, Look, I think that's a bit presumptuous, right? Remember the class, right? It makes a big difference. So, James Wilson, very, very exciting player. Unbelievable pace. I think he's going to terrify some defenders when he grows up a little bit. Welbeck, look, I like him, but he's not going to score 30 goals a season. He's just not. I don't see that changing anytime soon. And Rooney looked like he was running through treacle towards the end of the West Brom game. Physical decline is setting in. So if you sell Van Persie, I think they need to bring in a big player. Otherwise, United are going to have some problems next season scoring goals. And when we're all talking about Rooney's injury and Welbeck missing the target, we'll be wondering why we haven't got a classy Dutchman to score goals.
I'm not having this Welbeck missing the target thing. He's finishing this season as a goal every 2 appearances for Danny Welbeck this season. His finishing has been much improved this season. Of course,
So how many of those were against the top half of the table?
Well, yeah, but how many games have we played against top half of the table sides without just hoofing it long? That's... How many goals has Robin Van Persie scored against teams in the top half of the table this season?
Yes.
I'm not saying, by the way, that I think Danny Welbeck is better than Robin Van Persie, because I love Danny Welbeck, but I'm not insane. Just want to make that very clear.
Good. Yeah. No, look, I think we're looking at this the wrong way round, right? Moyes, as the manager, should be finding ways to get the best out of Robin Van Persie, and he's not doing so.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We can complain about the player sulking, but he is unhappy. And unless we've decided that he can possibly get happy again, in which case, you take the Ferguson route and you sell, and then you spend a really lot of money to replace like for like quality. Or you find a way to make him happy again.
Yeah, absolutely. Cheer up, Robin. That should be... David Moyes should have one of his iPads should be just set with an app called How to Make Robin Happy again. And it just have a 20-point plan for things to do to cheer Robin Van Persie up. Because, it's very similar to the Vidic situation. It's the manager's job. You can slate the player all you want to. It is the manager's job to get the best out of his quality assets. And if he's ruined Robin Van Persie, for some, I don't know, and all we're getting out of it is Wayne Rooney working a bit harder, it's not a trade-off that was good management, Anyway. We'll see.
No, very true. Well, anyway, look, that's a nice long podcast there talking about a victory for Manchester United last weekend. Yes. Can you believe it?
Unbelievable. What this means, Ed, is that we have to go to every game and sit next to each other, because that's clearly what did it, right? It was the special juju.
No, don't think so. And as in... we had nothing to do with it.
Yeah. Not you don't want to sit next to me at football. That's not what you're saying, right?
No. There will be another podcast next week when we will talk about United 0, Liverpool 3, and United...
Okay.
United 1, Olympiacos 1 in the coming week. And then we'll have a very different chat about what we think about David Moyes.
Is that your official prediction then? 3-0 Liverpool?
No. I think it will be 3-1 to Liverpool.
Danny Welbeck to score that one, right? I don't know. Predicting a United loss is always difficult, but predicting a United loss to Liverpool feels like it's some sort of terrible, heretical break from what a right-thinking person should do.
Well, it is.
If I pretend for a second not to be a United fan and just to be an observer of football, I would predict a Liverpool win. However, I cannot bring myself to do that, so I'm going to go with a 2-2 draw. There you go.
Wow. Bold stuff. Well, maybe not. Look, I hope the level of performance is upped. This is Liverpool after all. I mean, I know there aren't that many Mancunians in the United side. It doesn't mean a lot to a lot of the players, but it means a lot to the fans, certainly. And to see Liverpool come to Old Trafford and winning comfortably and stretching their lead over United is not good. I don't think United are going to make top four, whatever happens. Basically have to win every single game from here on out and still have others drop points. But what with City heading out of the FA Cup, it basically guarantees that United can only qualify for the Europa League by finishing 6th. So there is a chase on. We have to beat Everton. And so points still do matter. And, I hope there's a level of intensity as a result. Can't say I have an awful lot of faith in it. But we'll see.
There's no prediction there, Ed, I notice.
I already made a prediction. I said Liverpool are going to win 3-1.
Okay, all right. That's your official prediction, then. You are officially predicting Liverpool to beat Manchester United by 3-1.
Yeah, I'm sorry I'm being cold-headed about this, you know.
No, that's fair enough.
I've spent 4 years on this podcast predicting United win every week.
Yeah, we'll let you off this one. Olympiacos, you said 1-1. That seems... I'm going to go a heartbreaking 2-1 where they get a late away goal to take them through.
Very good. All right, well, we'll see. It's a very big week for Manchester United, very big week for David Moyes. There'll be more people on the Moyes out banner if United were to lose these 2 games, and City coming up in a couple of weeks' time as well. A very, very big period for David Moyes. United need some performances. Will they get them? Well, we'll find out, and we'll be with you again next week.
See you then.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.